Journalism and media only focus on the fact that climate change is a huge catastrophe and that the Earth, along with its inhabitants, are doomed. It makes us feel that our action, well, while climate change is a catastrophe, it makes us feel that our actions are pointless and that there's little that can be done. We are not inspired to act. We have other things in life that we are concerned about. Focusing only on the negative will not get us anywhere, and I think that we should make eco-friendly options more attractive for people instead of only talking about the bad effects. For example, as Whiting writes in her article called Why We Don't Care Enough About Climate Change to Change Our Ways," instead of telling people to start eating less meat, we can focus on making a plant-based alternative the norm, or give some type of rewards to people who walk, bike, or take public transport instead of using a car. Essentially, instead of focusing on the problem, we need to start thinking about how to make these solutions easier to implement. However, as I mentioned earlier, it is still up to world leaders to implement major changes and come up with real solutions. Here are some I believe would be effective. The first solution, which happens to be the most important, is to drastically reduce or completely stop the production of greenhouse gases. Yes, this is the one that everyone talks about, but it is also a solution that ordinary people have absolutely no control over. And it's true that we can choose not to drive cars, but the fact is that most people who own cars need them for their daily lives. And getting rid of them completely would make many people's lives very difficult for various reasons. Scientists and government officials need to come up with some way to replace all non-renewable forms of energy in the next 2 or 3 decades. And even if they're not interested in doing so, they have no other choice, as by then there will be no non-renewable energy sources left to use. Secondly, buildings worldwide contribute around 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions, 43% in the US alone. Electrical grids are at capacity or overload, and power demands are continuing to rise. The production of cement also contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions, and creating or finding a way to replace cement is critical to the fight against global warming. Basically, energy-efficient buildings and improved cement-making processes would significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the developed world and could prevent them in the developing world in total, or just in the developing world. Finally, I think that most countries need to conduct intensive research in order to fundamentally change the way we do agriculture. For example, corn and other crops need tons of oil for fertilizer and fuel to harvest and transport it. Animals require pounds of food in exchange for maybe a pound of protein. Farms, especially large industrial ones, require acres upon acres of land, which usually means cutting down trees or sometimes entire sections of forests. This in turn means that not only is there less oxygen being produced, but less carbon dioxide being absorbed. Cars and factories as well are not only the only things that produce greenhouse gases. For example, billions of cows on our planet are each individually producing their own form of greenhouse gas every few minutes, and reducing the number of them could benefit us greatly. Hopefully in the near future, we will begin to see meatless products being put on grocery store shelves on a much larger scale, and farming will be done without the use of non-renewable energy sources. I believe that this is one of the most important things we should do, is really focus on our farming and how we do it. And we already have things such as Beyond Meat burgers and meatless protein products. But I think that we should implement them on a larger scale, or introduce them, or give the public incentive to consume them. Thank you for listening to my video.